Hi everyone, here's a look at Phillip Island in the Pro Mazda in-depth lap guide. I know I haven't done many of these lately, but I've kind of done them for most of the tracks and I don't really see the point in doing them again and again, but this is one we haven't raced at, I think since the 2016 season, unless I'm missing something. At least I haven't raced there since then, looking at my sets, so it's a welcome return to a good track. This is in default late afternoon, after I'd done most of my setup prep in default afternoon. Confusing it. Let's get a nice clean run down the straight. The car tends to almost limit out by the end of the straight anyway, so it doesn't really matter if you're losing a couple of thousandths. Now, you just want to enter in here smoothly. You don't have to enter off some crazy wide angle or anything, and you don't have to really push the limit, but just to minimize track distance, I'd probably enter with the front left wheel on the white line and move to the front right wheel on the inside white line. Now, here's probably the defining factor of the lap. You know you're going to have a good lap, well, not based on this corner. So you sort of brake in the middle of the track, sort of with the car maybe more pointing towards the inside apex. If you're on throttle and braking pretty hard. Now at that point the car is still directly in the middle of the track. You're not entering from wide at all here. The track sort of has a line of the apex most people take, and you kind of want to push the car deep a little bit, then bring it back. Now at this point you've got to be turning the car quite aggressively. When you hit the brakes, you kind of want to agitate it a little bit and move the grip forward, and then you're just slowly bringing it back. Now you're having to fight it quite aggressively. You kind of want the car to feel like it's about to just kind of leave off to the right and not be able to get it back in, because you really need to turn it hard in the downforce and bring it back to the inside. And I managed to recover it. You don't want to bring it too deep up onto this inside curb here, as it will, if you're getting near the grass, it will tend to hop it a little bit and push it out wide. That's about as far in as you'd want to bring it, and even if you only get it into the white line, that's usually quite okay. Then you get hard in the throttle and you push it out and use all the track. Now you want to kind of slowly unload the steering, because although you probably could keep the car in a more narrow line with aggressively turning it, you're just scrubbing the front wheels and losing pace. So you just kind of want to slowly unwind it. So the corner has 3 stages. Firstly, aggressive brake, kind of overshoot the apex a little bit. Like at this point you don't even look like you're going for that inside apex. Then bring it back in hard, then just slowly accelerate out. Now here we're braking at the 100 meter marker, white line there, braking really hard, down 4 gears, so you're in 6 and you wanting to go down to 2nd. You want to kind of keep the car fairly settled on the braking, then just slowly turn it in. I'm not trailing the throttle too much because I'm not trailing the brakes too much because slowly easing off, keeping it fairly steady. Now you can do either 2 things. There's sort of 2 lines through here. If you brake a little bit later than what you're expecting, you don't get the car slowed quite as well, you can bring it in and get the front right wheel up on this sort of white line here and push it out. Or if you brake early and you're sort of closing the line a bit too much, it's okay to let it go over this curb. But you just want to be a bit slow and careful on the throttle. Don't slam it down. It's very easy to spin the rear wheels up when the car sort of lands and it's not quite settled yet. Use all the track. Now you're kind of straight lining it here, and just before you get to the apex you're braking. Now there's no really good braking markers here, but you just want to kind of carefully brake the car. And I'm trailing it in a little bit. I am braking while I've got a reasonable amount of steering lock on. You want to during the braking process, kind of get the car pointed towards the apex. Now, due to the nature of this corner and the amount of downforce on the car will tend to understeer wide once you get on the throttle. So you've got it fairly well pointed, and you're getting on the throttle here, and it's still just trying to understeer a little bit, but you're aggressively turning the wheel to keep it in at the apex. Then you get hard on the throttle and push it out. The key to this track is just hitting the apexes. On a lot of tracks that is somewhat easier to do because the car has a lot of downforce, but due to just the camber of the track and the way that the corners tend to run the car out wide, if you carry a bit too much momentum into them, it's easier for the car just to kind of start sliding and run clear of the apex. And at that point, what you'll have to do is you'll either have to throw in too much steering lock, which will scrub speed and often induce oversteer, which again will scrub speed, or you'll just have to miss the apex, and that will maximize the track distance. So I brought it into a nice apex here, and I've just pushed it out. I didn't quite clip it, but it's good enough. Just holding it flat through here. Now in this downforce trim, because I've got fairly low drag on this car, 18.5, 9.5 on the rear. You want to kind of modulate a little bit on the throttle, so I'm entering from fairly wide. I'm just kind of holding it on line through the throttle. You want to keep it fairly tight to this inside apex, but I don't like coming in too early, as you have to lose momentum to do it. Kind of bring it into a really late apex. As you go around, you're still continuing to pull it in. Just clips that apex just at the end of the corner, and it will continue out wide. You want to bring it back to the left and down 4 gears at the 50 meter marker. And whilst on the brakes, you're turning it quite hard. You need to get the front right wheel up on this inside curb to open the track. So that will travel down there. Push out a little bit and then turn left. If you go too deep, you have to pull the car back right again, then back left. You don't want to overshoot this corner. And although it looks relatively stable in this video, the car actually is kind of bucking a little bit because you're having to transition it from a very high speed, almost on the limit left-hander, to getting it straight and hard onto braking, so the car's not completely settled on entry. Then you can turn back into that left-hander, and at this point you're basically just full throttle. Follow the line tight, don't let it run out wide, you're just maximising track distance doing that. You want to keep the limit quite low, keep the distance quite low. This car doesn't need to use all the track around that corner. That's a lap. Now, one of the most important things you'll find around this track is it's really about getting the balance comfortable for you. You'll often find making very small wing changes will just like bring it from understeer to oversteer, and you try and fix one and it causes another. And I don't really think there's one setup that's going to work for everyone. I kind of have just been modifying around with all the setups, trying to find something I like and just slowly easing it there. It's a relatively low downforce setup, although I'm sure some people will run less drag than that. I just felt that maximized the corners. And as you become more comfortable, you find it a bit easier to push that car on the limit. And although this track is a fairly simple track, any sort of understeer or oversteer can still cost it a few tenths. I actually find like a track like Suzuka has a lot more to learn in terms of the corners. The corners are somewhat easier to put the car on the limit for. Here it's always sort of on the absolute limit of the grip, and any sort of stepping over that grip limit will push it well offline due to the speed of the corners and can cost you half a second quite easily if it just pushes really wide or catches some oversteer. Do the lap in full motion.